Well. Would you look at that? A federal judge actually did his job and reminded everyone, most importantly, Donald J. Trump, that the Constitution is, in fact, still a thing. U.S. District Judge John C. Coughenour threw a legal wrench into Trump's latest attempt to rewrite American law with an executive order, blocking the former president's crusade to end birthright citizenship. Yes, folks, a judge had to intervene to remind everyone that the 14th Amendment isn't just some decorative throw pillow in America's legislative house. It's real, it's binding, and it doesn't care about Trump's latest tantrum. The lawsuit that shouldn't have been necessary. The case was brought by a coalition of states, Washington, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon, along with immigrant rights groups, because apparently, even the most basic constitutional guarantees now require legal intervention to defend them from executive overreach. These lawsuits argue something that should be so obvious it hurts. The 14th Amendment explicitly states that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Sounds pretty airtight, right? Not to Trump. According to him, this means only the people I like. His executive order attempted to strip citizenship from children born to non-citizen parents, an audacious move that conveniently ignores over a century of Supreme Court precedent. But hey, who needs legal history when you have a Sharpie and a Twitter account? Just solely, America's long-standing policy, not that Trump cares. Birthright citizenship, also known as just solely, right of the soil, is the norm in about 30 countries, including the United States, Canada, and Mexico. But Trump, ever the constitutional scholar, pause for laughter, decided that he alone could redefine a principle enshrined in U.S. law since the Reconstruction era. His reasoning? Something about protecting American values, which, in MAGA speak, translates to fewer immigrants, more problems. This isn't even the first time Trump has flirted with this idea. Back in 2018, he claimed, without evidence, because that's how he operates, that the U.S. was the only country granting birthright citizenship. Spoiler, it's not. Then, he threatened to get rid of it via executive order, seemingly unaware that constitutional amendments aren't up for unilateral cancellation like an apprentice contestant. A Supreme Court case that settled this, in 1898. You'd think a ruling from over a century ago would settle this matter, but alas, here we are. In United States v. Wong Kim Ark, 1898, the Supreme Court ruled that a man born in San Francisco to Chinese immigrants was, in fact, a U.S. citizen, despite the federal government's attempt to deny him re-entry under the Chinese Exclusion Act. The court determined that the 14th Amendment applied to him, cementing just solely in American law. Of course, in the modern Republican mindset, historical legal precedents only count when they support tax cuts or restricting voting rights. But for immigration, suddenly, the legal history gets conveniently fuzzy. The executive order that could have created chaos. Trump's order, signed on Inauguration Day, because what better way to kick things off than attacking immigrants, was set to take effect on February 19th. If implemented, it could have denied citizenship to hundreds of thousands of children born in the U.S. each year. According to the four-state lawsuit, in 2022 alone, there were about 255,000 births of citizen children to mothers living in the country without legal status and around 153,000 births to parents who were both undocumented. That's a whole lot of people who, under Trump's logic, should just not exist as Americans. The lawsuits also include deeply personal stories, like that of Connecticut Attorney General William Tong, the first Chinese American elected to the position, who was born in the U.S. under the very same principle Trump wanted to erase. Tong called the order an outrageous assault on fundamental American values, and he's right. The executive order isn't just an attack on immigrants, it's an attack on the very definition of American identity. The judge's smackdown. Yeah, no. That's not how this works. Judge Coughenour's ruling was a much-needed legal slap in the face to Trump's order. The judge didn't mince words, stating that the 14th Amendment and Supreme Court precedent make it clear that birthright citizenship is a settled issue. Trump's order, therefore, had about as much legal standing as a game of Monopoly money in a real-world economy. Legal scholars have pointed out that even conservative justices would likely reject this executive order as unconstitutional. Why? Because rewriting the Constitution isn't something you can do with an executive order. If Trump wanted to change birthright citizenship, which, let's be clear, is still a terrible idea, he'd need a constitutional amendment, a process that requires approval from 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of state legislatures. Good luck with that. The real reason for this attack: the MAGA playbook. So, why did Trump even attempt this? Simple, it's red meat for his base. The goal wasn't to create real policy change, it was to stoke fear and outrage, painting immigrants as the ultimate scapegoat. Because if there's one thing Trump loves more than golf and Diet Coke, it's using immigrants as political props. The MAGA movement thrives on a sense of manufactured crisis, and nothing gets the base riled up like the idea of illegals stealing our country. Never mind the fact that birthright citizenship has existed since 1868 without causing America's downfall. Never mind the fact that every legal argument in favor of Trump's executive order collapses under even the slightest scrutiny. The point isn't legality, it's political theater. What happens next? Now that the judge has temporarily blocked the order, the case will likely move through the appeals process, potentially reaching the Supreme Court. But even with a conservative-leaning court, it's hard to imagine them gutting the 14th Amendment over a single executive order. The broader issue, however, remains. This fight over birthright citizenship is part of a larger trend of anti-immigrant sentiment being codified into policy proposals that are as legally dubious as they are morally reprehensible. And with Trump still hovering over the political landscape like a bad spray tan that won't fade, this won't be the last time he, or someone like him, tries to rewrite fundamental American law by executive fiat. Final thoughts: a constitutional crisis averted, for now. For now, Judge Coughenour's ruling is a sigh of relief for anyone who believes in basic constitutional principles. But make no mistake, this won't be the last attempt to chip away at the rights of immigrants and their children. If there's one takeaway from all this, it's that the Constitution isn't something you can bend to your personal whims just because you held a reality show presidency. The law is the law, and Trump's executive order? Well, let's just say it belongs in the same place as his old Trump steaks: expired, unappetizing, and best left forgotten.